I'm delighted to have Philip Shaw from Cleverclicks back in the studio. Hello, Philip.
Good day, Robert.
Good. So now, look, we're going to have a talk about measuring online success. So there's lots of tools, I think, out there and things that we can do. How should we do it as a small business? How do we measure our success?
The easiest way is to set up Google Analytics.
Okay.
It's a free tool from Google. Fantastic dashboard, charts, numbers, all things to do with your website. Really, really fantastic tool.
And the cost is?
The cost is zero.
Zero.
Zero, which is pretty good.
It's pretty good.
There's a huge amount of data there. It can add so much value. I think the problem that I see with a lot of businesses is that they can also suffer from overwhelm, because now there's so many numbers, you're not sure which to look at.
Okay.
So I've got a couple of tips around
But
that.
within the dashboard, you can kind of clear it up so that the main numbers jump out?
Yes, that's right. That's right.
Okay.
You can customize your dashboard. So once you worked out what's important to you, you can simplify things. But even if you don't, most clients probably don't. It's actually really easy to find what you're looking for once you start looking.
All right, and you're going to tell us the main areas that we should be looking for.
Yeah, absolutely. I think firstly though is why measure your online success, and it's really quite simple. It's about doing more of the stuff that works.
Yeah.
You really want to dig into your reports and see what's working. You don't make money out of looking at reports either. So you've actually got to draw the insights from them, and that can take a bit of practice, but it can be done.
Do you think most businesses still do, or a lot of them do, still just kind of put a website up and then forget about it?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. A lot of new clients we work with, they have analytics set up, but they're not spending much time in it, and that's partly because they've got into it and then seen all the information, spent 4 hours looking at it, and then coming out of it going,
Oh my God.
so what now?
All right,
which
let's
is
get
understandable.
into some tips that I know you have.
Yeah. So the first one is to set up goals.
Yeah.
And a goal is something, your website exists for a reason, to achieve some business objectives. And specifically, there could be a couple of goals that you want to measure. So maybe a newsletter sign up, a contact form sign up, saying we'd like to speak to you or whatever. A purchase, a download of a report, something like that. So each of those can be set up
Or
as
the phone ringing even?
the phone ringing, you can do phone call tracking. That's a bit more advanced and involves a little bit more programming, but that can be done as well.
So set up your goals, work out what's kind of key measure.
What you want to measure.
Yeah, okay.
Because once you've done that, you can then tell a lot of information around how that contact form, for example, was filled in.
Right.
What keyword was actually typed in for that contact form to be filled in. So your website exists for those goals. So you actually want to get it, obviously, as many goals as possible. And once you've got it set up, you can then start tracking all this data and all the reports that you look at. You can look at it from a goal perspective and see where that person was in the country or the world, for example, or the keyword, or whether they came from Twitter or whatever it is.
Okay, so goals first.
Set up your goals first. Secondly, also exclude your own traffic. So if you're going onto your website a lot, you're distorting your traffic. And if you have a web developer that's doing that, they're also distorting the traffic. So within the profile setting, there's a thing called IP exclusion, which is your IP address. So if you know your IP address, you just go in there, enter the number and say, exclude all visits from me.
These visits.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's really good to get rid of the noise. It's all about getting rid of the noise so you can get more insightful,
A real hard data.
insights. Take away.
Yeah.
Really critical. So once you've got the setup right, now you're ready to look at the reports. And a really useful report is the traffic sources, top traffic sources. So you can see if Twitter's sending you traffic, you can see if Facebook's sending you traffic, Google, any referring websites, anything like that.
Yeah.
So that's really handy.
So that'll show you where your leads are coming from if
Yes.
they're coming from an external
That's
source.
right. So where your traffic is coming from, and then exactly, if you have the goal set up, you can then say, okay, so where are these goals coming from as well?
Yeah.
So you can see that Twitter was a really good source of traffic. Lots of people make contact with me, but maybe not from Facebook. And then you can alter your strategy accordingly.
Sure.
So that's really handy.
Okay.
So now getting onto a couple of reports, I think, another report that's really useful is the keyword report. So under the traffic sources, there's a keyword report. And when you look at that, you can see specifically which keywords are driving traffic to your website.
So this is the words that people use on Google.
That's right. That's right.
That
So
sends them to your site.
emergency plumber Sydney.
Yeah.
And obviously, if you're ranking for that keyword, you may get traffic for that keyword, and then you can see what that keyword's actually doing once it's on your website.
Okay.
Which is really important because you can then look at that data and say, right, we need to do more of that. We need to think about our web copy. We need to think about our messages. We need to invest more. And maybe we're ranking number 6 on Google for this keyword, and it's working well for us. Let's invest more in this keyword and get this further up the rankings.
Okay.
So the data you get from that keyword report, that's probably the most important report that you go to on an ongoing basis, I think, for most businesses.
Terrific. Okay. Any other points?
There's lots and lots of reports, but I think another really popular one is the geographical overlay, the map overlay report.
Right.
And that depends on what sort of business you're running. If you're a local,
and that's the one that just shows you where people are coming from.
That's right.
Yeah,
It doesn't get down to postcode. Google's quite strict on the privacy. It's really aggregated at a town or city level.
Okay.
But if you're say you operate on the eastern seaboard in Australia, really useful to see where your traffic's coming from, whether it's Brisbane, Melbourne, Sydney, for example, or country towns.
Right.
So that map overlay report's also pretty handy.
Fantastic. Any other points for it? I mean, there's some really useful tips there that we can use. I mean, what you're saying as well at the outset is that analytics, whilst it might look to the first time a bit overwhelming, what you're suggesting is when you get into it, it is straightforward. And it can work.
It is straightforward. It's very easy. It's very intuitive, but there's a lot of data there.
Yeah.
So I'd start off by looking at a couple of really important reports, and then start getting familiar with it. And then as your skills build up over time, there's lots of places to improve that. Google have a really good learning center called Conversion University, which is really useful, and that's a lot of online videos and improve your skills over time.
Fantastic. Philip, thank you so much for joining us, for sharing these leads. I know if we want to hear more from you, cleverclicks.com.au.
That's right.
Is the place to go.
That's right.
Philip, thank you very much.
It's a pleasure. Thanks, Robert.